family relationship thing. Anyway, you want to talk about today's lore?
I would love to. I would love to not talk about the band kids and their promiscuity.
Did you ever go to a band party?
No.
Yeah, neither did I. Kind of feel like I missed out on something.
I think you probably missed out for the better.
No.
You might have got something.
Well, I don't care. It's everything's worth the story.
Tell us about the lore.
I just imagine a band party smelling like hot rubber
Oh.
and like cheap beer
And people.
and just bodies. Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn. All right. So Harold, also known as the Lord, him, the one who grows, gives, and guides, and the talking tree. He is an FEV mutant from Vault 92, originally human, born in 2072, 5 years before the Great War. During an exploration of the Mariposa military base, he was exposed to the FEV and thought to be a ghoul after this. He started growing a tree out of his head sometime later. Harold left Vault 29 in 2090, lived in the hub around 2096, and he got to Old Town, which is a part of the hub, and is kind of hanging out there around 2161. So like 100 years almost, this dude's hanging out in the hub. Now, he also spent time in Los, so which is a settlement from it's a settlement from Brotherhood of Steel, which is in Texas, but it's not canon, but it is canon because the timelines. He also is not the founder, but the ruler, the dude who's in charge of the town of Gecko in 2238, and he's I wouldn't say the leader, but kind of like in charge of Oasis.
He's
by 2277.
He's the entire foundation of the Society of Oasis.
Yes. In Fallout 1, when you meet him, he's 89. In Fallout 2, in Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, when you meet him, he's 137. In Fallout 2, he's 169. And in Fallout 3, he is 209 years old. Now, the following is Van Buren lore, so it may be canon, may not be canon.
Grain of salt.
There is also some contingency because there is something that contradicts itself, saying that the lore happened from Vault 29, and some of it says that the lore happened from Vault 27. It's just one of those things that could have just like someone could have wrote down.
Got lost in translation.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think?
I'm gonna go with 29 because I think that's what he says in Fallout 1.
Okay, that's a fair way to go about it. I like the number 27 better.
Yeah.
It's just a number that really just tickles my fancy.
Sure, I'm trying to think of why 27. Well, all those people died at 27.
What?
Yeah, you never heard about the 27 Club?
No.
Kurt Cobain.
Oh, I thought that was the White Lighter Club.
It's the same shit. They all had white lighters in their pockets.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Vault 29 was initially populated by young children, bought up by Diana, a human brain hooked up to a Zack supercomputer, posed as a goddess to the Vault inhabitants. In case of population unrest, a test subject would be chosen to be released from the Vault early. They would inspect the outside to see if the world above was livable. They would never return. This fact would deter everyone from wanting to leave for a short period of time. Harold agreed to stay with Diana, but escaped. He kept the nursery a secret. He felt that he felt it was his duty to the world to keep this gift intact until the world was ready. Now, the nursery is kind of, I believe, what they refer to as the entire vault, and like the society that was built up around it. Again, all of my lore that I get is off of Fallout.fandom. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. Fallout.fandom.com. That's where I got all of this there. By 2090, after the escape, he becomes a merchant and becomes a major player in the hub. By 2102, he's 30 years old. He and some adventurers, including Richard Grey or Richard uh, Moreau, Richard Moreau, Moreau. Richard Grey, Richard Morrow, the Master, a doctor who lived in the hub and was equally curious about the strange mutants. Uh, the party tracked down the mutants and the mutant animals to the Mariposa military base. Most of the party died fighting the mutants and the automated defenses that were there. The remaining party got quite deep into the base. They found the vats of thick green goo, the FEV. A large metal arm knocked Richard Grey into the vat and knocked out Harold. He awoke later in the desert, already starting to mutate. A caravan found him and brought him back to the hub. Now, the following is Brotherhood of Steel lore. So I don't know if this is technically canon or not. After the destruction of the Master's army, Harold went to Texas to a settlement called Carbon. He had a sexual encounter with a prostitute, Ruby. That is a direct quote from the wiki. In the Ghoul City of Los. So the Ghoul City of He wanted to have fun in Los, but the arrival of the super mutants hindered that. He lost his hand, his toe, and his eye there. After this, he traveled to Gecko in 2238. In 2241, very old but still a spry-looking ghoul runs Gecko, not far from Vault City. After the destruction of Necropolis, the ghouls migrated to the north to form a settlement around the old pre-war Poseidon oil power plant. This amount of long-term exposure to radiation would kill anyone else, but the ghouls found it to be pleasant. Harold arrived and took over from its dangerously ran conditions. This is a direct quote. The Chosen One still heard mention of Harold from time to time. Apparently, the tree had grown from his head has gotten larger, and if rumors are to be believed, fruit is grown from it. The seeds seem to be remarkably tough and survive, and several of them have taken root even in the most brutal parts of the wasteland. So, for as much shit as people give Fallout 3, they stuck pretty close to that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool when I read that. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, that is pretty neat.
That game enough. So here's more Van Buren lore. By 2250, Harold is sick. He has developed an unknown disease in the tree in his head. And he's slowly dying. He set out to find a cure. Not surprisingly, he didn't have an easy time finding help. Apparently, at this point in time, people don't really want mutants around anymore. You would think people would grow like more accustomed to having them around. Turns out people were just kind of like, all right, let's get rid of them. Which I never thought of because of the half-life of something.
Yeah.
Which was something that they kind of played with 76, was like, oh, here's all these new mutated creatures. The reason why we're seeing them now is because by the time the newer games took place, they were already dead because of how irradiated everything was at the beginning. Which I never really thought of like, I forget who says it. There's a ghoul that says that they are the last of the dying breed. There are those ghouls and then no other ghouls, and that is it.
Yeah, and then ghouls will just be a rare phenomenon after that.
Yeah, and then, oh, dude, speaking of which, we got to talk about it later. They ended the Walking Dead comic, and it's phenomenal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I read a synopsis of the last one, and you'd love it. We'll talk about it later.
Before we continue, for anyone that was paying attention to my camera, my chair is broken, so sometimes it just kind of gives out to the side like this. Don't mind that.
Yeah, so I never thought of that. Like, you play New Vegas, there's just Jacobstown for super mutants. There's Utopia. Like, there's not that much left on the west. The East Coast is kind of dealing with it now, but eventually 87 will run out of FEV.
Yeah.
So maybe by, let's say, like, unless the Institute is continuously making FEV from what they have, let's say by, like, 2035, 2350 or 2350, right?
Yeah, yeah.
2350, we could be totally out of super mutants.
Man, I mean, how long do super mutants live if they don't kill themselves?
I don't know.
I would reckon to say pretty fucking long.
I would say an average human is 80 years, let's say.
Mhm.
Maybe 160, because
Double.
by 2281, Marcus is still alive.
Yeah.
So,
And he seems like he's in good shape.
yeah. Um, I don't know. It was just interesting. It was just something to think about. I don't think they're immortal, but I don't think that they'll be around much longer.
Like maybe a couple hundred years.
A couple is.
I mean, as an entire collective of a species.
It depends on how fast they're being made. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, if there's still people that are, if there's still a factory that's pumping. Let me finish this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, good.
It didn't that didn't really stop him. He came across the Twin Mothers tribe. Now, this is Van Buren lore, I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check. This is Van Buren lore, but Ulysses, there's a dialogue option where Ulysses talks about the Twin Mothers tribe. The Twin Mothers tribe is originally from, or they come out of Vault 92.
Okay.
So he's surprised. He's surprised that they took him in. Explained to the tribal leaders of his quest. They consulted their goddess. Days later, offered Harold a concoction of. It was a foul-tasting drink, but it worked. Bob the tree got better and was happy yet again. Harold wanted to repay the deed or pay for what had happened. Denying, saying the people of the Twin Mothers tribe denied that and said the goddess will provide. Harold wanted to pay his respects to the goddess and he was brought to the tribal shrine for a private audience. The projected image of a woman was there. He returned to the nursery. It was a moment of joy for Diana and a new experience to him, as much of his early memories had faded with time. So that was really neat.
That is really cool. Kind of like after he finally got better, he went home.
Yeah, and it's like a full circle, but like he didn't realize he was home. Like, he knew that he kind of had something to do with it, but like I don't think he was totally aware of what was going on.
Because at this point, he's old as shit.
Yeah. By the 2060s to 2260s to 2277, overwhelmed with Bob's growth, he rooted down north of the Capital Wasteland, discovered by several people, worshipped him as a god, and settled a small cult named the Tree Minders. Bob began to blossom. The area grew with foliage, and Harold developed the ability to see through the trees that came from Bob's seed. He used his new abilities to bring in Wastelanders. The Tree Minders would make them go through a ceremony where they had to drink a sap, leaving them in a worse mental state than when they had got there. He craves death, but the Tree Minders won't give it to him. Now, there's another article on his page that's called The Nature of Harold, and this is an exact quote from Tim Kaine.
Okay.
As far as contact with FEV, any contact at all would infect the subject, but the amount of contact determines the results. For example, I imagine Harold had some contact with the virus, but was not fully immersed in it. So he became a different mutant than the master subjects. Full immersion, of course, is the preferred method of infestation, as it provides the virus a large surface area of infection. He said that Harold is a very special case. Despite his appearance, Harold is a kind-hearted soul with a comical personality. He made many friends throughout his travels, good with kids. He's friends with Sapling U in Oasis, and who he is particularly fond of. He's probably one of the most interesting characters in the entire game.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And
I think it's cool that, like, at the end of the quest Oasis, actually, hold on. Speaking of that, now that I thought of it, we have to get in contact with White. we should make a mod for Fallout 3 that every time you finish Oasis and Harold screams and like cries out in pain or whatever when you see him die,
Yeah.
if you sit there and you look at him for 10 minutes, it should just go, all right, well, here's Wonderwall, and play it because the band is Oasis.
No.
No, but I like that you kind of... And here's my thing. Do you think that they put that in there for a spiritual thing? Like, kind of like, not a spiritual thing. Do you think they put that in there as a way to say, like...
I feel like that
"Alright,
was
the original games
probably...
are dead.
I feel like that was a nod. That was a nod to the original creators.
I read something once about GTA 5. When you switch over to Trevor for the first time,
Mhm.
you it shows in a cutscene you beating the shit out of the one biker from The Lost and the Damned, right?
Right, from GTA 4.
Yes. Somebody said that that was like a... not it definitely was a reference, but it was saying like GTA 5 stomped GTA 4.
Like it put it out of its misery.
Yeah, not put it out of its misery, but kind of was like, I'm in charge now. Fuck you.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
it was a more symbolic action.
Do you? That's the word I was looking for. Do you think that the killing of Harold is symbolic to say we're in charge now?
I never really thought about it, but now that you mention it, I feel like it very well could be.
I kind of thought of it as I was writing this down. I was like, holy shit, they fucking snuck something in.
They killed the first couple games.
Well, they didn't do that until 2015, but yeah. So that's Harold. Do you have anything you want to say about him?
Easily one of my favorite characters from Fallout 3. I never met Harold in the early games because I never got that far.
Yes, we did.
Oh, did we?
I made a point to do it in the stream. I remember.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I remember where he is. He's not... I don't think he's far from Iguana Bob.
Oh.
He might be 2 screens down. Yeah, but I always, whenever I try to go back and play them and finish them, I'm always like, I gotta find Harold. So...
Harold's like... I'm trying to find like a comparison, but like, he's that character that you're rooting for no matter what.
I think he could have been a mascot.
Easily, yeah.
I think if the game would have took off back then, I think he could have been the mascot.
Especially if they took the series in a very different direction of like the world regrowing in a different way,
Mhm.
like actually like with
definitely.
foliage.
Yeah.
I think that could have been really interesting. But other than that, I think Harold's just super fucking cool. And even though he asks to be killed, I still feel bad every time I do it.
Yeah, but you can do it humanely.
Yeah, it still just kind of makes me feel bad.
Oh.
I especially when I played my evil run and I burned him down, that was the fucking worst.
I remember one time I did it, and I had a shish kebab, and I went whap, and he was just like, I'm on fire.
Bro!
And then I think one time I nuked him.
You gave him a good old mini nuke to the face?
Yeah, I just walked in. I didn't even say anything to him. I just pulled out, went, and then walked out.
Ding!
Yeah.
Damn.
I remember I couldn't find Oasis.
I couldn't find Oasis for forever.
Yeah, and I was like, I just want to find it. I just want to find it. Why can't I find it? Yeah.
I think they definitely, even though something I really like about what they did with Oasis is they made it difficult to find, but they didn't make it a secret because Three Dog talks about Oasis like all the time.
Kind of. He doesn't say Oasis, but he's like, there's trees.
Have you ever seen a tree? Not those shriveled black things. Yeah.
Well, Three Dogs saw one, and he's not sure if it was real because he was experimenting with Jet at the time.
Yep.
I believe on the wiki, I listened to that, and I was like, oh my god, the amount of times I've heard this.
So many times.
Like, how many times do you think you've heard, "Ba-na-na-na, bit of news"? Like,
Whew. So many times.
isn't that nuts to think of, like, one line is just so engraved into your head?
I just love the way he's like, not those shriveled black things.
Like, yeah, you want to hear something crazy? Like, something...
Sure.